we were seeing quite a lot of skulls around. There was a horse's skull hanging in the tree, and when I first saw that, it kind of took me back, and I thought, we're getting a warning to stay away. You know, your imagination really starts working on you. But this is another cabin that's by the Sheep Creek settlement, or one of the cabins, I should say. And there was an old rusted stove with a crushed up kettle on the top, and there was a little outhouse that was on its side nearby, and there was just scattered debris, yes, of human habitation. Oh, there's the horse's skull hanging in the tree. I think it's a horse's skull. So that was close by. And then this was close to the cabin, was more skulls. And there was a lot of wolf tracks around there too. So again, that theme of wolves seemed to be followed by them. I love this picture. Now this is taken by an Aboriginal photographer. He takes great pictures too. And so this story is in the book of his encounter with a lynx. I love lynxes. And he was going out and he went into the bush. It was very dense and dark, a lot of undergrowth, and all of a sudden he had a feeling he was being watched, and he looked around really carefully and saw this lynx sitting nearby just watching him. And he kept saying to me, he repeated the phrase, it had the curiosity of a cat. It was like a cat, it had its curiosity. And it got up and started walking towards him. And he got so excited, he was like, oh, he wanted to take a picture, right? So he brought the camera up, and of course the foliage is in the way, so he's trying to clear it, and he doesn't want to spook it off. But it's still walking towards him. And as he took the picture, the flash went off. That's why its eyes are yellow like that. And, you know, normally if you do that, even with a person, they'll flinch, or they'll, you know, you think with a wild animal, they turn around and they're gone. Not this one. It sort of stopped after this picture was taken. It stopped, it froze, looked at him, and then it just sort of turned and it sauntered away. But he said as it was walking away, it kept stopping and looking over its shoulder, looking at him as if to say, well, are you coming? It was really quite, he said, quite the encounter. He said he really felt privileged to have had this experience with the lynx. So this is a photo, another picture. I've got a really cool wolf story in the book, and I put this painting with it. And this is a watercolor done by my sister-in-law, who did the cover of the first book, The Ghost Walker of Grand Cache Lake. Again, theme of wolves. So I just like the feel she caught there. Here's The Ghost Walker of Grand Cache Lake, which is the cover of the first book, and it's taken obviously on a full moon with the mountains of Wilmore way off in the distance. So I have a story around this one too. Now these are going back to orbs again. I've got ghost stories in there as well, obviously. This man, a retired RCMP officer. So you would think with an RCMP officer, there would normally be very nuts and bolts and very, you know, their powers of observation would have to be pretty more tuned than the normal Joe Blow off the street. Anyway, he had a whole story behind this of taking his ashes of his dad and burying them. Again, this thing's not working.
Is there a path? Is there a path?
Yeah, he buried them. Oh, it's not working. Okay.
A little fence on the side.
Yeah, this actually is this is a waterfall, and he walked across, and by this big boulder here, where the yellow flowers are, he buried the ashes, and so then he walked back over the stream or whatever, and he sat on a bench here. This is snow here, and he was just sitting there and thinking of his dad and talking to his dad in his mind. And so he took some pictures, and then this one, again, you've got an orb here, and you have another one. It's not too clear on here, but there's a large, thin one right out in the corner there. And then the next picture, I think, here looks just like a snowball. That's a very unusual orb. I haven't seen one that dense. I think it's the next one. Yes. that looks just like a snowball. Now, the previous one you could say, he was by the water, you know, he got a water droplet on his lens, so that's what the orb's about. Actually, no, sorry, this is the one with the orb. See the orb on the left there?
Yeah, I
By
see
the
that.
stick? It's a
lightning.
big, thin, white one. But this is, to me, I've never seen an orb like that, and it looks like the movement of it, it's heading towards the grave.
It does.
And there's a story where his dad used to feed this little wild squirrel, and so as he was talking to his dad in his mind, he asked his dad and said, "Can you give me a sign, Dad, to let me know that you're okay?" And this little squirrel came running along, went down to where the grave was, and there was a little pool of water there, and it drank out of the pool of water, right where the flowers were, and then it sat there and it kind of looked at him, and then it went away. And in his mind he said, "Oh, okay, I take that as a sign." I've heard of that before, is a lot of people, different people, have said that maybe a particular animal that their loved deceased one used to like, that animal they'll use that animal to influence and pass on the message that they're okay, you know, coming back to the loved one. And I have my own personal story with that I might share if we got time, which we're running out of time. But anyway, I can share with you on that. So he took it as the squirrel, you know, his dad was coming to say, "Yeah, I'm okay." Now, this is a really cool picture. This one, the TV was off at the time. And
TV was off.
the TV was off.
Okay.
The photograph on the wall is a wedding photograph of the parents of the owner of this apartment in Grand Cache. She had just got this new camera. She was showing it to her friend, and it took a photograph accidentally. And when they looked at it, this is what came out. And she says that she thinks that, because the first question, of course, I ask is, "Do either of you smoke?" Because it looks like smoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "No, we don't." And she reckoned that it was the spirit form or whatever, showing that her parents were letting her know that they were okay. But I said, "Do you recognize who that person is on the TV?" And she said, "I have no idea." And actually, it is a bit of a creepy picture. If you look at it really closely, it's slightly like a double exposure. It's not a single exposure. It looks like a superimposed face. It's like two faces in one. It's weird. And then I think I've got it here. Yes. So this is a building in Grand Cache that has had lots of hauntings, lots of sightings. And this was taken. There were people out dancing in this hall, and this woman. Now this is really freaky to me. Is a really good sign that these are authentic, because she showed me on her phone there were videos. I mean, photoshopping these days, it's amazing what you can do to make things look like they're real. Those are stills. This was a video. The video was showing these orbs flying and shooting all over the place in all different directions. And then they'd stop, and then they'd move, and then another one would come at a different speed, and they'd change in intensity and denseness. So what I did was I asked her if she could send me some frames from the video, and I would choose to try and get a sequence going. So, you know, lose a little bit in quality because it's taken on a phone and it's a video, but they still came out better than I hoped for. This one you can almost see through it to the picture on the wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
The woman was singing, and so the sequence is that she's got the orb on her shoulder, then it went down between her legs, then it went over to the table, and then it sat on the chair. And that one is blue. I've never seen a blue orb before. I've always seen them as like dark white, you know, or dense white, or a transparent, thin white. This one is quite a bright electric blue. Even there, it's lost a bit of its intensity. So there's a Grey Lady of Dunvegan. There's a suspension bridge down at the bottom there. Bob is a good storyteller, but the fact that you know, there were other people with him and they saw it too makes me kind of think there's got to be something to it. Now, what I did was too, with the first book, it was mostly around Grand Cache. Then as the word spread and people started bringing me more and more stories, because then they trusted that I was not going to blow their cover, because a lot of them, you know, were sensitive to that, understandably. It got further afield. So now this latest book, I have stories. There's a, you know, at the Miskassepi Park, there's a building there that's supposed to have footsteps in the building, and I got permission from the Miskassepi Museum to use their plan of the layout of the village, and to put the story in the book. I always make sure I get permission first, because I don't want to get sued. And then there's a whole bunch of stories around the Palisades. Now the Palisades is just outside of Jasper, so this is looking at the mountain of Palisades, and that is an amazing place. Has a lot of atmosphere there. This building had lots of hauntings. It's called the Lodge, and unfortunately the foundations are settling, so right now it's not deemed safe enough for people to stay in. But again, it was in its lifespan, the Palisades gone through various changes. There was a few years where the RCMP would use this facility for training their cops, their police. And so again, to me, it has more bearing, the stories that I got from this, because it was from people that were with the RCMP, several people, not just one, that told me stories around this place.